Who says you can't have your cake and eat it too? Well, you know you can. And for this week's episode, we will be discussing 7 basic things to remember when choosing your wedding cake. This is the Kundang from OUINE'S Events Management, and you're watching Tuesday Trade Tips.
Can't forget the day we met. Your eyes so blue, me piercing through. I can't forget the day we met. Your smile so bright, it made me swoon. Our love is like a summer's day, hot and endless in a magic way. Whenever I see you, all I can think is my summer love. Been waiting for you, my love.
For the first tip for this week, I suggest that you know what you want first for the design. Alright, you can store different pictures from the internet based on your theme and your motive, as well as add something that's very personal with you. For the second Tuesday trade tip, it's more on know thy baker. Alright, it's very important that you meet your baker, or at least the cake maker, but because of the pandemic, it's wise to at least have a video call with them, or if you want, you can just send emails. Yet to be honest, having a video call is better than just email, so that you can discuss things with them. And you can have immediate reply because you're already talking to the baker. So with the baker, you have to know if they can do the design that you want, if they have also inputs, because after all, bakers are also artists in their own right. The third thing you have to remember is the flavor. So you have to discuss with your fiance whether you are going to serve that cake to your guests, or would it be just for you and your fiance, or soon to be groom or bride. Okay, it's important that when you choose a flavor, it's something that everybody most probably will like. For the fourth tip, we're gonna discuss about frostings, such as the basic 2, fondant and buttercream, as well as naked cakes, and also fake cake. For frostings, there are many frostings, but the main ones are usually the fondant cake and the buttercream. So for the fondant, if you're more of the artistic one, if you're more into that, because for fondant it's easier to decorate it. It doesn't melt easily, but it melts, but not as easily as buttercream. For fondant cake, it gives you a more finishing and more perfect look compared to the frosting that has a buttercream in it. However, when it comes to fondant cake, of course, if you instantly eat it, even if all the layers are edible, it's still hard to cut it, as well as it's not as delicious as the way buttercream frostings would give you. Alright, so if you're opting more for the design to make it look perfect, yes, you go for the fondant cake. So first, for buttercream, all of them are edible. So when it comes to buttercream, it's more delicious, it's more delectable to the taste. So whether you're up to the artistic and perfect look, or more onto the taste of your cake, you can choose fondant, or you can choose buttercream. Then there's also the naked cake, and for this naked cake, it's as mentioned, there's no frosting at all, and then this can be decorated in different ways, not just with icing, actually more edible, or sometimes a more artistic way with real stuff in it, that which we'll discuss in the other tip. And then there's also the fake cakes. When we say fake cakes, it's usually for like cake mapping. The cake acts as a canvas, so what the cake mapping people would do is just decorate the surrounding cake with fake flowers or something, and then the actual cake, especially if it's a wedding cake, if you need to cut it to do the cake cutting, there's this portion at the back where you can cut it. So they'll ask you what flavor you want, well, based on the flavor available to them. The fifth tip it's more in the decor. You can use your imagination when you're decorating the cake. So you can choose between sugar flowers. Usually that's for buttercream cakes. For fondant, you can be more artistic with that because some fondant cakes, like the one we had in Balasine, it's like a painted cake. Alright, of course, we use edible paint for that. Right? And then, not to paint, wherein people can really taste that. And then we can also use real flowers and real fruits like berries and strawberries. So for the real flowers, we had that one for our gifted cake in Tagaytay, and also in another venue in Tagaytay, in Balaydaco, we had a cake of 5-story cake wherein they had strawberries and berries on it. And then sometimes with the cake, you can also add the elements of the theme in it. We had a Beauty and the Beast debut. So for the debut, we had this the glass encasement for the rose is placed for the Beauty and the Beast. So it was on top of the wedding cake. Of course, you have to show it first to the baker just to make sure the fondant can hold it. So and there's also, as mentioned, the cake mapping thing. For the cake mapping, you can discuss with your vendor the things that you can project in that cake mapping. For the 6th tip, you have to be familiar with the cake tradition. Alright, so you have to know where the cake is going to be placed and make sure that everyone sees you and you're not covering each other. So it's more on the blocking as well when it comes to the cake tradition and how you're gonna do it. You practice it, like for me, with my couple, with my clients, I made sure we practice this before they do it on the actual day so that it won't look awkward. So we do have a rehearsal for that. Aside from that, we have to discuss with the caterer how tall the table is and if there is a decoration for that one. It's good that if you have a caterer and they will provide decorations for that, then that would be great. And then also, as I mentioned, the height, you have to make sure you know how tall the table is so that you can also discuss with the baker so that he would know if he will be placing some stand to make the cake look taller. And if he does that, make sure you know where the edible part is so that when you do the cake cutting, you won't be awkward when you do that. For the last Tuesday trick tip, you have to discuss about the transfer of the cake with your cake artist or your baker or the bake shop. Alright, it's very important that they arrive early. So one is the time. Second is if the baker or the cake artist is quite far from the venue where the reception is going to be held, make sure that if something happens, they would be able to fix it. Alright, it happened in one of our weddings. The baker was very early. However, on the way, something happened to the cake. So, good thing they had extra. They have extra frosting. They have extra stuff so that if something happens, they would be able to fix it. If your wedding is like what happened to us, it's in Balasine. So we had 2 sets of coordinators who went to the destination wedding. So me and the bridal assistant and the makeup artist had to leave early a day before with the couple to make sure they're okay on the day of the day before the wedding, because we still have to assist them with their pre-pictorial as well to be added to the same day edit. Then there are 2 other coordinators who followed the following day at around 5 a.m. on the actual day of the wedding with the other guests. So with them is the actual cake. So the cake actually arrived here the day before the wedding at our house, and then we had to make sure it's in a cool place, and then the coordinators had to bring it to Balasine, and then also it had to be a fondant cake because if it's a buttercream cake, it might melt. So the travel between our house to the private airport and then to to the hanger, okay, and then to balance itself. So as soon as it arrived, they had to give it to the concierge and the balance so that they can give it to their resident restaurant so that they can place it inside the refrigerator to be prepared for the day of the event. For this week, I hope you enjoyed watching this video because I enjoyed doing it for you as well. I hope you learned from me, and I hope this will help you when you discuss things regarding your cake, okay, with your fiance and with your cake maker or baker or the bake shop. Alright, so I hope I was able to help you. So for next week, we will have something more to do with the aisle, alright? More on where you're gonna strut your stuff. Okay, so this is Lee Kundangan once again inviting you to follow, like, and subscribe our different social media accounts from our Facebook page, OUINE'S Events Management, as well as our Twitter and Instagram accounts at wins_events, as well as our Kumu account, Kumu PH account, which is the.events.empress, and of course our YouTube channel, which is Wins Events. Alright, so if you need coordinators, we're just here and we're always here to help you any way we can, alright? Have a great day and see you next week.